here, we need to care for others and be there for others. Growing up, it used to be if one household had something, every household had something. We looked out for one another. We had a neighbor. What was the lady mama that Miss? She borrowed eggs all the time. I mean, all the time. Our mama, that lady back over here asking for eggs, just give them to her. Because when one household had something, everybody had something. It was that type of love that we express and care for others. What has happened to our compassion and care for others? And this is a personal question. When was the last time you sacrificed something for somebody else? The last time. Now I ain't talking about your kids because you go to jail if you don't take care of them. Now, I'm not talking about them. This the last time that you made a personal sacrifice for someone else to be okay. We were talking earlier before some of you all came in about how many of the children this summer are struggling because they don't have lunch. They don't have lunch. And how others are donating gift cards. Others are giving to make sure not just my household, it's not enough for my household to be blessed. We've got to look out for each other. We've got to be there as a community for each other, helping them raise, because you've heard that proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. That's true. It takes a village. It takes all of us uniting, all of us working together. It's not enough for one person to get there and forget where we came from. We get a little piece of a job, a half of a paycheck. Y'all don't think I'm live. Am I live? Pat, I'm not live, am I? Okay, good. All right, good. I can see it. We get a little piece of a paycheck, a half of a car with a payment we usually can't afford, and you can't tell us nothing. We forget. We ride by people, don't pick people up. I ain't got time to go that way to get them. I don't have time to do that. And then when we need a ride or we stand in need, I don't know why they acting funny like that. I don't know why. But it's got to start with us. And it has to be, giving has to be in your heart and in our spirit. To be a giver, to sacrifice, to give up something. Christ laid down his life for us, and he was without sin, and he died for us. So we have to practice. We heard Pastor say, he preached a couple weeks ago that giving was his name, and said he wanted God to grow him in giving and being a blessing. Well, humility is saying, I've got to give something up. What can we give up for the betterment of the kingdom? What can we do to help serve each other better? What can we do? Because we oftentimes we'll talk about it, but we slow about being about it. Anybody ever been slow? You did one of them. I've done one of them pledges, and you know how you pledge and be like, okay, oh Lord, they want that now. This week I got to pay my light bill, and we start thinking of stuff. We start replacing stuff. Well, I really did want that bag that I saw, but I done said I'm going to give this. So we're tested. But I want us to keep in mind, our second point was that he had gave us a model of humility. He's urging them to be the example. If we had to be, it had to be an example, how would we get evaluated? Would they look and say, well, I know Sarah. Sarah is a giver. She loves everybody. She gives up. Or would they look at us and say, a little selfish, a little self-centered? We've got to evaluate ourselves and be honest with it. And be honest. I'm gonna tell something on myself. Yeah, I always previously, y'all know I like clothes a little bit, right? Just a little bit. Just a little bit, Tip. Not much, just a little bit. I was in there in the closet, and I was like, I said, okay, I'm going to move this out. I'm going to give this. And I started thinking, Dee Dee, well, that's probably going to come back. I need to keep that. I said, if you hold on to it long enough, style come back. I got to looking around. I said, you know what? The Lord told me, You got to get this stuff out. You got to do better. Because we begin to hoard stuff and hang it on. I hear you, Dad. I heard you. I heard you. We hold on to stuff. We've got to be the type of people that be givers, to bless someone. Because it's somebody that can use anything that we have. It could be a blessing. So our aim this morning was that by the end of this lesson, we'll analyze the work of Christ in Philippians. Follow the example of humility and sacrifice. Examine this week our hearts. And let's see, are we being humble and are we making sacrifices for the kingdom? Grow in our ability to place the needs of others before our own. Do y'all think we can do that this week? We can start. Y'all slow? Can we do that this week? Come on. Yes, ma'am. Say that loud, sister.
Oh, when you do give, always, I mean, just never always expect something back. It's not coming from your heart. It's not coming from a place of love. When you start expecting, I'm doing it because, maybe one day she'll give it back to me and all that stuff. Money's different when you loan that now. But
Y'all heard that.
but
When you loan it, y'all
yeah, when you loan it, you don't ask for something and tell somebody you make a commitment to give it back and you don't. That becomes a lie. But when you really giving it, don't always expect something back. And you see how great God bless you in ways among you just can't imagine.
And what Sister Thomas said is so true. When we give, we can't always look to get it right back. You give somebody $5 and then you want them 10 back in 2 days. And then we mad because we don't get it back. I saw Sister Lynn say it.
Thank you. I remember when I first came to church here about 9, about 10, 10 years ago. I would come in for 6 o'clock. I would come in and I would pray on the altar at 6 o'clock before a pastor would have Bible study or whatever. But I remember I came in one day and he was in here vacuuming, and he went from vacuuming to he was wiping down walls, and then the next time he was in the bathroom, and so so the next time I came back, I came a little early so I could do it so he wouldn't have to do it. But then I think Sister Jackie said, no, Sister Lynn, that's what he do. That's just what he do. But then after I watched him, it was this humility of being here, and I saw the cleaning that he did put him in another realm. It put him in a place, and that let me know that was his intimate time with God, and I couldn't interrupt it. I couldn't intercede. I couldn't do anything but intercede for whatever it was he was thinking about and the way he was processing it, because of the way he vacuumed the floor, the way he wiped the walls, the way he wiped the windows down. And I asked him one day, I said, Pastor, I said, you want me to help you? He's like, no, that's just what I do. But then God said, leave it alone, because that's what I put in him to do. That's his reminder of where he's come from, and that he can't be forgotten of what he has, because he has to be an example. And I thought about that when you said the humility this morning.
And what Sister Lynn has shared is so powerful, because we oftentimes look for a high position. If you're asking somebody to speak, talk, teach, get on the mic, no problem. But it's the greatest service that we do behind the scene, that nobody sees. Nobody knows. And like I said, pastor is a fanatic about a floor. If you don't, but that was a way of being humble, because at that time that you're speaking of, he was moderator over 52 churches. But in spite of being called to that position, had enough humility to come in and didn't mind. How many of us can get down to that level and be humble? If we haven't got there, that's going to be part of our challenge this week. Did I see anyone else's hand before we close?
Yeah, I'm glad y'all circled back. I didn't want to be the highlight of it, but to God be the glory. But I did want to circle back to that point. I think I heard it in the opening statement, because I think I hear a lot of young people, and I talk with these young people all the time, and trying to help direct them in their careers and stuff, and even mentor them. Today is Student Recognition Day, and I like mentoring young people. But one of the things about it is that we're in an era where everybody wants to own their own thing. wants to be their own boss and business owners and all, and that is very good. That's very aspirational. But one of the things about that is that you can't own or you can't lead until you have effectively followed.
Amen.
And I think that's the missing element for all of our parents. I will say that to you. You know, if you got a child that's inspiring, then what you got to do is teach them the low place. Teach them the places of humility. If you wanna open a business up or you wanna do those things, then go work for someone else first. Learn the process first. Then, you know, as time permits, elevation comes. But I think where we're misguided in today's society is that we want to start at the top. We want to start on top. And that's not the way life works. And I mentioned in my teaching on Wednesday night, I've shared with the church, I'm reading this book that's called the Arithmetics, the Algebra of Wealth. It's called the Algebra of Wealth. And one of the things about the Algebra of Wealth that it talks about in the very beginning stages of this book is that you cannot judge yourself or mimic the exceptions to the rules.
Amen.
And what he meant by that was this: you can't look at Jay-Z and say, I want to be like Jay-Z. You can't look at Warren Buffett and say, I want to be like Warren Buffett. You can't look at LeBron James and say, I want to be that. Those are the exception to the rules. Those are not the everyday rules. While those are what we call once in a generational figures. That's what Dawn Staley calls them. She looks at Malaysia full Wally, and she said, Malaysia is a generational player. Nobody's going to be able to do what she's doing. Nobody can do what Michael Jordan or Jackson did. But what you can do, they are everyday people that are in your atmosphere that has great affluent people that have done it the normal way, that is not the exception to the rule. But you got to be willing to take that humble place in order to do it. That's why, Lynn, thank you for that. I love the vacuum. I'm cleaning this church 24/7. Seat that you sitting in right now, I cleaned it. It's good. And that's because no one made me or I don't have to. I could hire somebody to do it. I love doing it. I love doing it because when you are accustomed to serving, you love to serve. That's what we got to teach these days. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take up so much time.
Oh, no. I think I saw Brother Dan's hand.
Okay.
Yeah, I said one thing in the lesson as it was speaking about the gentleman that was the multi-millionaire. You know, he got exposed in the barbershop. He was, you know, low key. And they exposed him, and that's kind of like Pastor, you know, he do it, but nobody know he was doing it until they seen it, you know. And sometimes we do things, but like the gentleman, he was doing it for the glory of God because he was not bragging about it. A lot of times we do things that we want credit for, but we give God the credit. He's the one to get the credit for it.
That's true, and we cannot get in the way of giving God all the glory. Well, as we close, let's make serving our superpower this week. So let's serve and let's serve. You know, when we get to heaven, we should be done gave out because we've served so much. We've given so much. So we're going to conclude our lesson. I'm going to ask Sister Natasha Taylor if she would come and close us out in prayer as we get ready to receive our minstrel.
Can we please stand? Can we stand, please? Amen. We reference the sanctuary.